Welcome to Better Musician and our free sample guitar lesson. My name is Doug Dunbar, and today we're going to be looking at some classic rock electric guitar riffs. Now, electric guitar is the most popular instrument on the planet right now. You hear it in every song on the radio. And today we're going to be looking at AC/DC's song TNT. TNT is based on 3 simple chords and 2 riffs. We're going to look at the chords first. The chords that we need to know for this song are E, G, and A. We're going to start with the E chord. Now, the E chord itself will look something like that when we have all fingers down. We'll back this up so we do one finger at a time so you can see exactly where things are going. The first finger is going to go on the 3rd string, 1st fret. Now your 3rd finger will come in and play the 4th string at the 2nd fret, and then the 2nd finger just above it on the 5th string. So all 3 together are going to hold those down all at the same time. Now you can practice getting those fingers on one at a time, but ultimately you want to be able to grab that all at once. So practice getting them into position and then lifting off and planting them back down. So the second chord we need is the G chord. We're going to move from that E chord to the G. So you'll notice that the 2nd and the 3rd finger are in the same fret, but they're quite far apart. The 2nd finger is playing the 6th string, all the way up top here at the 3rd fret, and the 3rd finger is down on the 2nd string on the same fret. And this finger is going to be resting against the 5th string to stop it from ringing at all. So if I hit that string all by itself, it's not going to make any noise really. These 2 strings are open, and then that one's being played. So if we just watch what these 2 fingers do when we move from the E chord to the G chord, sometimes you need to just practice that kind of motion as well, just getting those 2 fingers to move simultaneously from the E chord to the G. The 3rd chord we have to learn is the A chord. We're going to be playing this with 1 finger. And this will always come back and forth between the G chord and the E chord. So we're always going to be kind of going back and forth, playing this one a lot and just with the 1st finger. So let's take a closer look at that. The A chord is played with 1 finger, the 1st finger in this case. And we're just going to be laying it across the bottom 4 strings and kind of pretend you're pressing down at the knuckle here instead of the fingertip. So it's going to kind of lay flat across the strings and hold 3 strings down. You play the 5th string here open, and then the next 3 strings, so that's fingers holding down. And that's the A chord. Earlier I had said that we don't need to play all the strings on all these chords. You don't want to hit all 6 strings. So let's look at the right hand and how to accomplish that. The first thing I'm going to look at is what these 2 fingers are actually doing while I'm strumming. I'm kind of holding on, or resting them on the high E string a little bit. Just kind of a little bit right here. And so that is acting kind of as a mute and stopping my pick hand from going any further. So when I play the E chord, I'm reaching up, and even if I'm hitting that high string, no sound's coming out. I'll go back to the G chord and the A chord, and I'm basically taking that string out of any of those chords. Now that we've got those 3 chords, it's time to look at our 2 riffs. And basically what you're going to need to do is just be able to switch back and forth between E, G, and A. And practice going both directions. So E, G, A, and then back down. A, G, E. Riff 1 is the introduction, the verse, and what the rhythm guitar plays underneath the guitar solo. And it goes like this. So that's starting on our E chord, slow this down to the G chord, and then to the A. So if we just take that first little bit, E, 2, 3, G, A. We'll talk a little bit about the rhythm in a minute. That's the first transition you need to do. We practiced that earlier. Now we're just doing it rhythmically. So just try to get it to sound like that. Now once we get to the A chord, we need to come back to the G, but not the full chord, just the note under the second finger. So we're going to play the A, come down to the G, go back to the A, back to the G note, and then we need to get our fingers in position for the E chord. Let's take a real close look at that. Okay, the second half of that riff again, we're going from the A chord, just using the second finger on the G, back to the A, back to that G note, and then to the E. So we want to watch. Now the trick here sometimes is getting all these fingers to form that E chord on the way back. So practice doing that, just holding that one note, and then kind of visualize in your mind what that E chord looks like, and your fingers will go there. Now let's put all of that together and talk a little bit about rhythm. So I'll just play through that again and try to tap your foot along with us. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now you notice that most of the chords are starting not when you're tapping your foot, but in between. The first chord starts right on beat 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. And so that's kind of the trick behind this whole thing. Really makes this song come alive to get these what are called offbeats in the right place. So you need to be able to kind of tap your foot. And if you listen to the song, that's exactly what the drummer's doing. He's keeping that boom, boom, boom going the whole time. And you're playing somewhat in between those. So really listen to the rhythm and try to feel that, the placement of each of those chords. Our second riff is even easier than the first one. Rhythmically, it's not hard. You just have to play 1, 2, 3, A, G, E. Right on the beat, right when you're tapping your foot, right when the whole band and the entire audience is screaming TNT. And then you count to 4 again. So it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's it. The only other thing you need to do at the end of that is to come back and play the G and end on the A chord. So the very last time, 4. And then you go back to playing the verse. So let's hear how that sounds all together. Well, welcome to the live chat portion of the lesson. Our main lesson stuff is done, and you saw me play a bit of the song there with both the riff 1 and riff 2. And so now the questions are starting to come in, and let's take a few of those right now. Okay, so Jack is asking, how do I get a good AC/DC rhythm tone? So Malcolm Young's guitar tone, how do we achieve that well? First thing we need to know is that not too much distortion. On the amp that I'm using right now, the gain, the distortion is barely on, and it's a very clean sound. If I strum it lightly, if I strum that E chord lightly, it doesn't sound like there's any distortion. If I hit it hard, then it starts to break up and distort a bit. Okay, so that's the main thing. Very, very little distortion. Nice and clean if you strum quiet. Also, a lot of guys today are scooping out the mid-range. That means taking that tone control marked mid on your amp and turning it all the way down. That's great for like modern metal and new metal sound and thrash, but that's not good for AC/DC. You need to go the other way and max that out, turn it right up. A lot of good mid-range bite out of that. Okay, so that's the basic tone. Okay, Cindy would like to know something about playing some solos over top of this. So I'm going to show you just a little tiny scale on the first 3 strings and 1 note on the 4th string using 2 fingers. We're going to just play single notes here. So 3rd fret, 2nd fret, open. Fingers 1 and 2. And do that on the next 2 strings. And then the last one, that last note there. And you can mess around with that and play those notes in different order. And so on. You can just kind of mess around with that. The best way to learn how to solo is to just do it. Okay, so play around with that. Peter was noticing that I was doing some little technical things here. Here's a little technique thing, and that's string bending. Or I'm pushing the string up to change the pitch. There's a bunch of different things we could talk about with this, but basically you want to hook your thumb over top, push the string towards the thumb, kind of like pretend you're crushing a grape or something. And you want to hear the note that you're going to. And think about it as a singing thing. Okay, but with all of this stuff, with technique, with tone, with learning how to solo, with actually learning songs, the key ingredient is patience and practice. Well, that wraps up our lesson for today. Hope you enjoyed that AC/DC tune. We'll see you next time in the class.